Hello, sixth grade. I hope you're doing well today. It is Wednesday morning, and we're going to continue talking about biography and autobiography. So what I want you to do is take notes on this video. You want to do that the same way you do it in class. Then after you finish that, you will upload pictures of your notes, one page at a time, and that will count as your daily grade for today. So just like in class, you don't have to write everything I say, but you need to write enough that would help you remember this video in the event that you had to take a quiz over it. So biography and autobiography. How did Harry Houdini develop his tricks? How did Helen Keller feel when she learned to communicate? Most people are curious about the lives of others, from historical figures to today's athletes and stars. Biographies and autobiographies can let you in on the lives of many fascinating people. So we're going to start first by talking about life stories. Biographies, autobiographies, memoirs, journals, and personal narratives all tell true stories about people's lives. Remember, a narrative just means a story. What makes each type of nonfiction narrative unique? So all of those types of narratives, biography, autobiography, memoirs, and journals, they're all nonfiction. One important difference has to do with who does the writing. So let's look at the chart on the next slide and discover other differences, as well as some similarities. So we have 4 different types of nonfiction narratives: the memoir, the personal narrative, the autobiography, and the biography. Okay, we're going to concentrate today on the biography and the autobiography. So we're going to start on the right. In a biography, the writer is not the subject. It is written from the point of view of a third person. It's based on information from many sources, including books about the subject's journals and letters and interviews, and sometimes it includes details provided by the subject. So that could be a personal interview with the person that the biography is of. In an autobiography, the writer is the subject. So characteristics of an autobiography mean that it's written in the first person. So you'll see throughout it, I, me, my experience, things like that. They describe the subject's thoughts, feelings, and opinions about his or her life. It is based primarily on details that come from the subject's own memory. All right, so let's look at an example. Model 1, the biography. Years ago, readers worldwide first fell in love with the wizard Harry Potter. You can actually probably hear his music in the background. Soon after, J.K. Rowling became a household name. So the following excerpt is from a biography of Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series. From J.K. Rowling, biography by Bradley Steffens. J.K. Rowling, as she was soon becoming known to the world, was pretty well prepared to handle life's ups and downs. She had equipped herself with a good education, traveled and lived abroad, been married and divorced, given birth to a child, and lost a parent. She had struggled through grim poverty and realized a lifelong dream of publishing a book. Yet nothing could have prepared her for what was about to happen. Within 5 years, she would become one of the richest and most recognizable women in the world. The media would report on her every move. Most important, hundreds of millions of people, children and adults alike, would read and reread her books. So let's think about this excerpt. How can you tell that this excerpt is from a biography rather than an autobiography? Well, look back at your notes. Is J.K. Rowling writing this herself? How can you tell she isn't? You can tell because when her name is written, J.K. Rowling, and then she's referred to as she and her, that's all third-person narrative. So we know she's not actually telling her own story. What was Rowling's life like before she became famous? Name 2 specific things you learned from this excerpt, and then write them in your notes. Pause the video so you have a minute to do it. Here's an excerpt from Chairman of the Board. This is part of an article that was published in Sports Illustrated. When Hawk swoops down from the top of a U-shaped bowl and starts digging into his bag of tricks, 720s, 360 varial inverts, finger flips, he is a sight to see. An aerialist who is equal parts gymnast, acrobat, and ballet dancer. He often concludes his shows with an electrifying 720 aerial. Hawk is the only skater in the world who can complete 2 mid-air somersaults and somehow still land on a 31 by 10 inch hunk of hardwood. So let's look at this. If you knew nothing about Tony Hawk except for what you've just read, how would you describe him? Go ahead and write that down in your notes now. So now let's look at the boxed language, because this is imagery. When Hawk swoops down, okay, the action of swoop is fast, it's quick, and it's also bird-like, which is kind of a play on his last name, Hawk. He is a sight to see, okay, so it's something that you want to pay attention to. He's the only skater in the world, so that's drawing attention to the fact that he is the only person who can do these wonderful things. So all of those things work together to make the piece interesting to read and engage the reader. It also has a very upbeat tone. Okay, for your assignment today, which is due tomorrow, you will read Matthew Henson at the Top of the World, which I've uploaded into Google Classroom. Jim Haskins has written over 100 books, many of them biographies of African Americans. Matthew Henson at the Top of the World is a gripping account of a polar exploration and a portrait of a determined and courageous man who overcame the racism of his day to accomplish an extraordinary feat. Okay, so let's look at a little bit more deeply what that means. So a quick summary of the piece. After a difficult childhood, Matthew Henson found his calling at sea, eventually working for explorer Robert Peary. In 1908, Peary led an expedition to the North Pole. Frostbite and exhaustion reduced the party to Peary, Henson, and 4 Eskimos. On April 6, 1909, they became the first humans to reach the North Pole. Peary became a hero, but because Henson was African American, he was not recognized until years later. As you read this story, I want you to think about why people attempt the impossible. What is it about a person that makes that person want to do what no one else has ever done? And then think about the harsh weather conditions that made the Arctic exploration exceedingly difficult in Henson's day, yet he persisted in pursuing his goals. Remember, this happened in the early 1900s, so that's like 110 years ago. For your assignment that you will start today and it's due tomorrow, you're going to read Jim Haskins' Matthew Henson at the Top of the World, which is attached in Google Classroom. Then complete the Google form entitled Matthew Henson at the Top of the World Comprehension Questions. Remember that you must complete the Google form in one sitting, because once you close the form, you lose your answers. Make sure to answer all questions in complete sentences and follow the instructions on the form. I'll be checking my email throughout the day, so let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day. Bye.